And like, who doesn't love a fake dating billionaire trope? Like, name one person. I dare you. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we are going to be talking about all the books I read during March. So I had a fantastic reading month during March. I read a total of 10 books, and I even had a 5-star read. So we love that. So I read 7 books on my Kindle, and then I read 3 physical books this month. So let's get into it. So the first book I read in March was The Night Shift by Annie Crown. This book is about Kendall and Vincent. Kendall is a very introverted bookworm. She actually works at her college's library, and she'd much rather be in her bed reading than out and about at a party on a Friday night. Okay, let's just say that. Vincent is the star basketball player at their college. He's very popular, and they meet one night during Kendall's night shift at the library. They meet because Vincent was coming into the library to get some help for this like book report he had to write, and let's just say things got pretty hot and heavy at the library that night. Okay, this book is a college sports romance. It's kind of insta-lovey. It's shy girl, popular guy. Overall, it's just a really cute, spicy romance. So I ended up rating this a 3 out of 5. I really enjoyed the book. I think it's perfect if you're kind of wanting like a palate cleanser because it is under 300 pages. Because of how short it was, it kind of gave off insta-lovey vibes, which isn't my favorite, but it's kind of a given when taking into consideration how short the book was. I really loved Kendall's character. Every now and then she would get on my nerves, but I have a soft spot for characters that also love to read because the whole time she's talking about all these like book tropes, all these things like that happen in books that she hates, and I ate it up. It was so cute. So the next book I read was Unravel Me by Becca Mack. This is the 3rd book in the Playing for Keeps series. It is a hockey romance, it's found family, it's single parent. So this book is about Adam Lockwood. In the first 2 books of this series, we kind of see Adam go through this very tumultuous and toxic relationship. And in this book, we see him out of that relationship, trying to heal, and he really is ready to make another connection with somebody. He wants to find love. However, he's having a really hard time finding someone that he connects with on a deeper level, someone that loves him for him, not just because he is famous and he's a professional hockey player. And it's during a hike with his dog Bear that he actually runs into Rosie, who is our female main character, and she's kind of in this same boat. She really wants to just be loved and chosen, and yeah. So I ended up rating this book a 3.25. I loved Adam's character. He was such a breath of fresh air compared to Carter and Garrett, mainly because Adam wants to make that commitment. Like, he is a relationship kind of guy, whereas the last 2 main male characters kind of had commitment issues, and that was kind of a roadblock that those couples had to get over, you know? This book also made me cry. I really loved the whole message of like finding your own family and the whole subplot of adoption and what that meant to Adam and Rosie. However, my main complaint is that this book should have been a lot shorter. This book is almost 500 pages, and there is really no other subplot besides their relationship. And because Adam doesn't really have any commitment issues, they get together very, very quick, which I love, but I oftentimes felt bored because it was just romance. With that being said, I still loved the characters. I really liked Rosie's character. I think this book definitely did something different compared to the first 2, and I can't wait for the rest in the series. So moving on, the next book I read was The Reunion by Megan Quinn. I actually listened to half of this on audio, and then I read the rest on my Kindle. If you did not know, if you have the Kindle Unlimited app, you also have access to like a bunch of different audiobooks. So the more you know. This book is about the Chance siblings and how they find love. I'm pretty sure there are 3 siblings, so 3 different love stories going on at the same time. And this book kind of centers around their parents' wedding anniversary party that they're planning, so that's why they're all back in their hometown, because they're planning and attending this like very special occasion for their family. So since there are 3 different love stories going on, there are a lot of different tropes happening. It's workplace romance, one night stand, second chance romance, and then it's also giving like small town vibes because they're all back in their hometown and it's a pretty small town. Like literally everyone knows everyone. And obviously there are multiple POVs. If I can remember correctly, I'm pretty sure there are like 6 POVs because we get the 3 siblings and then also their 3 love interests. So there's a lot going on. For me, this book was a 3 out of 5. I really liked the premise. However, it was super hard to keep up with everything. I constantly got confused about like who's who, what's happening. Like, I don't know. I think some things just got lost in translation for me. And because there were so many different couples, I feel like a lot of their relationships felt like very surface level because we couldn't dive in deeper. So the next book I read was Love Contract by Sophie Lark. This is the first book in an interconnected trilogy by her, and it is her newest release. It's also a little bit different from what she normally writes. Sophie Lark is known for her dark romances, like that is her bread and butter. However, Love Contract is kind of her attempt to branch out and write a rom-com contemporary romance, and let's just say it did not disappoint, okay? So this book has a fake dating trope. He literally shows up at a work event unannounced and is like, hey girlfriend, like we're dating, like how's my beautiful girlfriend doing, in front of her boss, and kind of blackmails her to help keep up this ruse in a way. It's also forced proximity because she has to move in with him at one point. And don't worry, it gets better. They knew each other in high school. He was kind of like popular and in the in crowd, and she was not. She was very much a loner, and I ate it up. I loved it. I feel like I say this in like every other video, but I love Sophie Lark's writing style so much. It is so fast paced, it's quick and easy to read, and it just like gets ya. I will literally read 100 pages in what feels like 5 minutes when I'm reading a Sophie Lark book. Like that's how addictive and effortless her writing style is, okay? So this book was a 4.5. I absolutely loved it. I literally cannot wait for the next 2 books because it's about his twin brother and then their dad, who's a widow. Like, sign me up. I literally cannot wait. This is why Sophie Lark is such an auto-buy author for me, okay? So the next book I read was Once You're Mine by Morgan Bridges. This is the first book in the Possessing Her duology. It's available on Kindle Unlimited for free. This is also a dark romance. It's a stalker romance, and it's forced proximity, and it's fairly short, so it's giving very much insta-love. You have been warned, okay? So basically, the main guy's a lawyer, and the main girl is a politician's daughter, but her dad was actually murdered, and he murdered her dad, and then became obsessed with her. And that is not a spoiler. That's like literally happens within like 10 pages of the book starting. So a lot happens. So I rated this book a 3 out of 5. It wasn't my favorite. However, it did get the job done. When I went into this book, I just wanted a dark romance that was gonna be fast-paced, easy to read, didn't have to put much brain power into it, and that's exactly what I got. My main grievance when reading this book was the fact that he was like this lawyer that works at this office, but then would say all the like dark romance things like touch her and you'll die, and like all those like angsty things that MMCs say, and it just did not hit because he's a lawyer. Sorry, I'm like, no, that is just not it. So moving on, I actually ended up finishing that duology and I read the second book, Now You're Mine. I ended up rating this a 2.75. I honestly wasn't the biggest fan of this duology. The first book was good at some points. However, by now, the characters should have some like deep emotional connection, and I felt like I never really got that from them. Everything about the relationship felt very physical and surface level. And it kind of got to the point where I wasn't even rooting for them as a couple. This book also has a heavy mystery subplot, which, if I'm gonna be honest, was the main reason why I was reading the book. Like, that was the only thing that kept me going, and the fact that it was like 250 pages and I was already like 150 pages in, so I'm like, let's just finish it. At that point, you're like, am I really gonna quit, or am I just gonna power through? And I powered through. Overall, this duology was mid at best. It did what I needed it to do, which was provide me some dark romance in under like 500 pages, so there's that, I guess. So the next book I read was The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. This book is about Millie Calloway, and she is in desperate need of a job. She has spent the last decade behind bars, and she's currently living inside of her car, so times are tough for her. And so when an ad comes out about a lived-in maid position, she thinks that all her prayers are answered. Like, this is her ticket to getting her life back on track. And during her interview, the wife, Mrs. Winchester, seemed nice enough, and her husband seemed nice and doting and normal. However, the more time Millie spends in that house, the more it becomes apparent that things are not as perfect as it seems for the Winchesters, and they have a lot of issues, let's just say that, okay? This book was a 4.5 for me. It was so close to being a 5-star, I'm not gonna lie. It was so fast-paced and easy to read. If you did not know, one of my reading goals for 2024 was to branch out and to read more genres, specifically thrillers, and I think this book is perfect if you want to get into thrillers as well. It was super addictive. I literally read this whole thing in one day. I just absolutely loved the drama and not knowing anything until like the very last minute. Like, it just kept you so engaged. I'm pretty sure this is a trilogy, so I cannot wait to read more about Millie and what she kind of gets into. My only issue with this book was that the plot twist was a little bit predictable, and that's coming from someone who is very new to thrillers and the genre. However, I don't think the predictability diminished my reading experience, if you know what I mean. Like, the plot twist didn't make the book, okay? The book made the plot twist. Like, the plot twist did hit, don't get me wrong. Like, it just was a little bit predictable, and I kind of saw it coming. However, I still thoroughly enjoyed the book. The drama was everything, like I said, and it's just super fast-paced and fun and easy to read. So the next book I read was Black Ties and White Lies by Kat Singleton. This book is about Margot and Beck, and it is a fake dating, fake fiance trope. Essentially, Beck is Margot's ex's brother, and he comes to her one day and is like, hey, I need your help. There's a lot of bad media about me in the press right now, and it's affecting my relationship with the investors. So I need you to be my fake fiance so they get off my back and they see that I'm no longer this like playboy that this article made me out to be. And Margot's like, why would I do that? Like, why would I help you when you're literally my ex's brother? And essentially, if she goes along with this like ruse, he will help her get her dream job, like get an interview for her dream job at this gallery. And that seems like a sweet deal to Margot, so she agrees, and she actually ends up becoming his assistant because he literally bought the company that she works at just to talk to her because she wasn't answering his phone calls. Like, we love that. Like, okay. This book is also very much Mastermind by Taylor Swift coded. If you know, you know. So good. Like, literally so good. If you love the boy obsessed trope, this book is for you because, oh my gosh, so good. So this book ended up being a 3.5 for me. I loved it. This is perfect if you just want like a spicy, fun romance. It was super quick to get through. I think I finished it in like 3 days. And like, who doesn't love a fake dating billionaire trope? Like, name one person. I dare you. So the next book I read was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This was actually my book club's pick of March. If you did not know, I host a book club on my Bookstagram page, currently overbooked. And to join, all you have to do is subscribe to my Instagram and you'll be a member. You'll be added to a designated group chat. You'll be able to help decide what we read each month, and you'll also get exclusive posts and content from me. This is honestly just a great way to make bookish friends and to kind of meet more people within the book community. So back to Bride. This is Ali Hazelwood's newest release. It is a paranormal romance between a werewolf and a vampire. It's also an arranged marriage trope, and I guess it's slightly enemies to lovers because the werewolves and vampires are like mortal enemies. They do not get along, and the whole point of this marriage of convenience is to create a kind of alliance between the two species. So I ended up rating this a 5 out of 5. This was the 5-star read I mentioned earlier. I only have 2 5 stars of 2024, and it's One Dark Window and this book right here. I kid you not, I stayed up until 2 a.m. reading this book because that's how addictive it was. I just love Ali Hazelwood's writing style. She has been an auto-buy author since The Love Hypothesis for me, okay? And I just love how she's branching out into new genres and is experimenting with new concepts besides the STEM romances. Like, don't get me wrong, I eat up the STEM romances. I love them every time, but it's so fun seeing her diversify her like catalog essentially. This book also has a heavy mystery subplot, which I really enjoyed. I really like it when a romance book has another subplot going on to kind of keep you entertained outside of the like romantic relationship that is supposed to be going on. This book has also opened my eyes to a new fantasy world that I just love. I have never really read any werewolf romances before this, and that was something that I did not know I needed in my life. So the last book I read in March was Packed in the Penalty Box by Melissa Huxley. Like I mentioned earlier, reading Bride kind of opened my eyes to this new subgenre that I really enjoyed. I went into Bride thinking I wasn't going to enjoy it because of that, but it ended up being like one of my favorite things. So that kind of led me to go on this like deep dive on TikTok for more book recs like Bride, and this book was one of them. It is a hockey romance, which we know I love and eat up every time, so it had that going for it. It's also a why choose romance, which is another trope that I'm kind of getting into, and this book also takes place in the Omegaverse. So I ended up rating this a 3.75. I really enjoyed this book. It was a fun time. It was just pure vibes, okay? If you really liked Bride and you kind of want something similar but not too similar, like, you know, this book, okay? Because it is just pure vibes. Like, yes, the dialogue was a little cringy. There are some moments where I literally was like, what is happening right now? But you just need to look past it and just go in purely for the vibes, to be entertained, to have a fun time, because I know I did, okay? This book was also super fast-paced and addictive. Again, it's a why choose romance. So you have like 4 different guys to fall in love with, and you get 4 different love stories. What more could you want at that point? I also failed to mention that this book has a heavy found family trope. I feel like that's kind of a given when it comes to why choose, because there are just so many people. Like, at that point, you kind of just form your own friend group. Like, so that concludes my March reading wrap up. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give this video a big thumbs up. Comment down below how many books you read in March and what your favorite read of the month was. Make sure to subscribe for more videos. I have a lot of fun things planned for this channel, so subscribe so you don't miss out. I also have a Bookstagram, currently .overbooked. I mentioned it earlier, but I post reels, reviews, book updates, anything book related I post on there. So if you want more content from me, go follow my Bookstagram. And that is it. I will see you next time. Goodbye.